Pittsburgh Steelers fans, welcome to the BTSC, that's Behind the Steel Curtain family of podcasts. My name is Bryan Anthony Davis. You could call me Bad. Along with me is my friend Tony Defeo. You could call him Tone Deaf or call him whatever you like. He's cool. He doesn't care, do you, Tony?
No, I've been on the internet for 20-some years. I'm used to everything.
Gosh, I could only imagine those great stories.
Oh, yeah.
That might be when we bring back Tales from 2 a.m. We might have Tales from 2 a.m. Tony.
Sounds good to me.
You promise those will be fun and wild, right?
They'll certainly be wild. I don't know how fun they'll be, but yeah, it'll be both fun and wild. I mean, we have the Hartwig thing. That's, so many things.
Love it. Definitely love it. Hey, if you are just checking us out right now for the first time, now that the season has started again, I'm Bryan, this is Tony, and we are so glad to be here with you, our BTSC family, as we talk Pittsburgh Steelers. And not only are we talking Pittsburgh Steelers, we are talking 3-0 Pittsburgh Steelers, undefeated Pittsburgh Steelers. Last year at this time, we were talking about a team that was 1-3. Well, actually, after 3 games, they were 0-3. But if you're going back to calendar, since everything's a week later this year, that was a 1-3 team at this time last year. And nobody was feeling good because you just beat the Cincinnati Bengals for your only win. Didn't have your franchise quarterback. Everything was in disarray. The Pittsburgh Steelers now have their franchise quarterback in Ben Roethlisberger back. They have players like Stephon Tuitt back. They have Minkah Fitzpatrick for a full year now, a full offseason as well, if you want to call what COVID gave us a full offseason. And you have some new players, such as Chase Claypool. Well, we're not, I was going to say Stefan Wisniewski, but now that he is on injured reserve as well, I mean, we should see him back, though. But you do have Eric Ebron, who made a big splash in yesterday's game as well. Alex Highsmith has seen some action. So there are some new faces. We're feeling good, Pittsburgh Steelers fans. So 3-0. But it hasn't been pretty, has it, Tony?
It has not been. It has not been. But I will certainly take it over what you just described from a year ago at this time, the month of September, and all the bad news and the start of the season with the 3 losses. Yeah, certainly, like we said last week, it's better to win ugly than lose pretty.
You know what? I've lost pretty before. It's still losing, right?
Right.
But how I've gotten that Mr. 2 a.m. moniker was talking about stories of the past that weren't always necessarily me, but it's 2 a.m. You just take it. You take the victory, and you do that. And that's how the Steelers are when they're winning ugly. You know, what we're talking about this week is they have the knack for winning nervously. So they're putting their fans through some nerves. In fact, I'm going to call the Roonies up. I'm going to call them up and say, hey, look, you need to go ahead and take care of my copay for my anxiety medication here because you're giving me some anxiety. But at the end of the day, when they're winning games, it don't matter. It's fine. They're winning games, Tony. So let's talk about yesterday's game. You and I were the bad guys this week. We were the heels once again, and I saw a great comment on the comment section that this one woman was mad at a few of us, and you know who you are. And it's you and me, because we are the prognosticators, and I use that term loosely, that went ahead and picked against the Steelers this week. I make no apologies, because I will tell you this, I'm wrong a lot. And I don't mind being wrong. I had that gut feeling. My gut feeling was wrong, so I'm happy. But there were times when I'm sitting there thinking, especially when they're down 14-3, I'm thinking, gosh, I don't want to be right. But I thought I was going to be. So you and I picked against the Steelers. Why did we do that? Tony, let's start with you. Why did you pick against the Steelers in this game?
Well, I mean, I can't remember the last time they won in week 3. Not that that really has anything to do with 2020, but it seemed like the perfect recipe. The Texans, as we talked about, they played the Chiefs and the Ravens to start the year. They're a pretty good team. They have a really good quarterback. good receivers. They're playoff tested, and I figured, with no fans in the stands again at Heinz Field, and the Steelers playing kind of sloppy last week, I kind of felt they'd be ripe for the picking this week. But obviously, I was wrong. But in the same way, we can't pick them to win every week. We'd be like real homers instead of bad guys. We got to keep up our heel reputation, right?
The Jeff Hartman method is pick him every week to go 16-0 every year. And no, he doesn't even do that. He'll go 14-2 or 13-3 every single year. But Tony, here's the thing about that. That was just my gut feeling. And it was pretty much the same reason that you just laid out there. I was thinking Deshaun Watson is a great quarterback, and I really think he's something special. He did not have the best game yesterday. The Steelers handled him. Why they ran more in the second half against the Steelers, I don't know, because they were not getting anywhere. You also throw in the fact that the Texans played the Chiefs and the Ravens in the first 2 weeks, where the Steelers played two teams that were 0-2. And you have now they have not had an opponent yet that has won a game. But I don't worry about that. So I don't have a problem with that because this team is going to find ways to win. I told you all the time that this is a special team. This 2020 team is going to be special. I'm feeling really strong about this team, but I don't expect them to go 16-0. And I thought yesterday could be the game. Now, somebody asked me what my gut feeling is about the Tennessee game. It's on the road. It's against a 3-0 team, and I feel better about that game. I actually am not as worried about that game as I was the Texans game. I think the way they're stopping the run, Tony, is bodes well for them. Derrick Henry's great. But guess who else is great, Tony? Saquon Barkley.
Yeah.
Melvin Gordon.
Right.
David Johnson. Those guys are great. Those guys maybe have a little over 100 yards combined against the Steelers. I think Gordon did the best. He might have had 65 yards or so. But, they stopped those guys. Tannehill does not scare me as much as Watson did. This is a team that won ugly the last couple of weeks as well. This is going to be a fun ball game to watch. 2 3-0 teams going up against each other. You have 2 2-0 teams going up against each other tonight in Kansas City and Baltimore. And unless there's a tie, one of them is going to walk away with a loss. So the Steelers and Titans are going to be ahead of one of those teams in the AFC standings. It's really interesting going into it. And next week, one of those teams is going to remain ahead. I'm saying either the Steelers or the Texans ahead of the Chiefs or Ravens, because one of those teams is going to be 4-0 next week. Hey, it could be the Pittsburgh Steelers. We have not seen a 3-0 team since September of 2010, and that's when Ben Roethlisberger was not playing because he was suspended in that year. They went to the Super Bowl. They lost that year. But I'm really excited about this team. So, Tony, what are your thoughts on the fact that they're going into Tennessee this week, 3-0 against another 3-0 team? And are you more worried about, or were you more worried about the Texans than you are the Titans like I was?
I thought they were going to lose yesterday. So, I guess I was probably more worried about the Texans. Because like you said, I think Deshaun Watson is the best quarterback that they'll face in the first, who do they have next? Eagles, probably the first 5 or 6 games. So I'm definitely confident that they could take care of Tannehill, at least keep him in check. I don't think he's gonna be the guy that beats them. So I'm probably more confident about this game, even though they're on the road and they're supposedly going to have 7,000 fans in the stands. So I'm feeling good about this game.
Yeah, I'm not worried about 7,000 fans in the stands. I tell you what, the Minnesota Vikings didn't have luck against the Tennessee Titans with all those cardboard cutouts there. And I heard that one of the cardboard cutouts got in a fight with another one, and it was really ugly. Somebody had to go to the shredder. It was really bad.
That's why you can't take kids to the game anymore.
Break out the box cutters.
That's right.
Something's going wrong. That's just absolutely ridiculous. I love it. So, Tony, what's your knee-jerk reaction from this Steelers game? Because, they went down the field pretty well in their first drive. They came away with a field goal. I don't know whether you were thrilled with the play calling on that first drive, but they got down there pretty quick. They only came away with 3, and I was nervous about only coming away with 3. And that proved to be the truth, because I had a reason to be nervous because Deshaun Watson, next thing you know, it's 7-3. But what's your knee-jerk reaction from the way that game started and how the Steelers went down early?
Well, my knee-jerk reaction is thank goodness for second half adjustments, because the defense really didn't look good at all in the first half. I mean, I think we can all agree on that. As you said, I don't know why they bothered to try to run, meaning the Texans, in the second half, because they were doing a great job of finding the soft spots in the Steelers secondary. I guess they were playing zone. I thought I read that today that they were playing zone, and I would, if I'm the Texans, I would have kept doing that, but maybe they couldn't. Maybe the Steelers. My uncle said, well, the Steelers never really make second half adjustments. They're not good at that, and that's certainly something that Tomlin's been criticized for throughout the years. But they must have made some adjustments because they were lights out. So that was my initial reaction. Is it was a tale of two halves, and I'm glad that they the defense really came on strong. I mean, the defense, it was as good as it's looked even since the beginning of last year. That's how good that defense looked in the second half. But it's probably maybe one of the worst first halves of first or second halves that they've had since they gained a reputation of being an elite defense.
You know what? I'm very fine with this team having a better second half and staying within the game. But, you kind of felt a little bit better when they took the lead again at the end of the first half. But then, just like that, boom, 50 seconds. Houston goes down and scores on this team. And I was like, wow. I was like, all right, if they hold them to 3, that's fine. But no, they went and took the lead again. And the second half comes, not a thing from the Houston Texans, not a point. And that's absolutely phenomenal. That when you say second half adjustments, that's definitely what they made. Now, last week, I believe it was on the preview, or maybe it was on the post-game show, but Jeff Hartman asked this question to Dave Schofield and myself. And one of the questions was, when will the preseason be over for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Now, if you listen to Let's Ride with Jeff Hartman on our audio-only platform this morning, he proclaimed it. He said that the preseason is now over for the Steelers. I kind of, my answer to that question was, give Ben Roethlisberger until the fourth quarter of week 3 against the Houston Texans for this to be over. And I just said that a week ago. And it seemed like that rang true. So I was right about something. Ben Roethlisberger came out and he's starting to look sharp. If I have a wish list for Ben Roethlisberger, it's that maybe some of those deep balls start connecting. But it seems like he's pain free. It seems like not everything's on the mark yet, but it's coming. And if you call 3-0 your preseason, then wow, what's coming up ahead, Tony?
Yeah, I'm looking for, as they always say, the team that you see at the beginning of the year is generally not the same team you see by midseason, and then by December, it's a completely different team. So I'm looking for them to really hit their stride by mid-October. The last few years, they seem to really play their best football in October and November. So I'm looking for them to really hit their stride in another week or so.
And, Leonardo Torres, greetings from Brazil. Love to see that, Leonardo. And he says, just happy about another win. And I'm thrilled about it. I am absolutely thrilled. But let's not forget what our jobs is to talk about the good along with the things that worry us for the future. And that's what we're here to do. So as far as Ben Roethlisberger, I think he's there. As far as James Conner, I take back everything I said 2 weeks ago when I said that maybe it's time for the Snell cow to come in and be the guy. But it was really interesting, Tony, and I've got a question about this. It's obvious that James Conner is the guy, and when he's healthy, he is very good. I think he's fantastic when he is healthy.
Right.
Is he going to remain healthy? We're going to hope so. But it looks like they transitioned yesterday to a little more division of labor with the running backs by giving Anthony McFarland Jr. an opportunity to come out and play and get some reps. And he had some nice bursts. Benny Snell Jr. did not have the best days. His average was, I believe, 1.6, but he was not cast aside because of the fumbles. And that's good to see. You don't want to take a player like that and just say, okay, you've had 2 fumbles, you're done. But what the 2 fumbles in my mind did was say, hey, let's just see what McFarland has as well and go ahead, put him into the mix. So now you have 3 guys. It is not a running back by committee. It's never going to be completely that with James Conner healthy. But if you can give James a little bit of a rest and throw those guys in at spots, you're going to be a better team. Now, I question sometimes when James Conner wasn't in there on an important 3rd and 1. I really thought 3rd and short, I want to see him in all the time. But as far as that goes, at least those guys are getting some action, and you're not waiting for the wheels to fall off of James Conner to say, oh, hey, maybe we should get these guys some reps. So the running back situation, Tony, what are your thoughts?
I think they're doing it perfectly right now. What did Conner have? 18 carries yesterday, and both Snell and McFarland had 7 apiece. I think that's how you should do it. If you don't want to do a complete running back by committee, and I don't think Tomlin will ever really want to do that or commit to that, then they're doing it perfectly. You want to basically give the number 2 and number 3 guys roughly half the carries that you give your number 1 guy. So I like it. And I think Conner and Snell are kind of like 2 sides of the same coin. They're sort of like the same kind of running back, downhill runners, a little shifty, whereas McFarland's obviously a breakaway threat. So I like the way they mixed him into the rotation yesterday.
What is your biggest worry about this team going forward? It's a 3-0 team. We have a lot to be excited about. But your biggest worry, and it could be anything. It could be coaching. It could be injuries. It could be the secondary. It could be the offensive line. What's your biggest concern right now?
I would say injuries, but you could always say that, I think, because, I mean, they're always, as we found out last year, they're always one big injury away from the season being a total disaster. At least it would have, it's starting out that way with last year. It started out looking like a disaster. I'd say the secondary, honestly, and it's only a mild concern. It's a mild concern because I think there was such great hope for Minkah Fitzpatrick after what he did last year, and Steven Nelson graded out really well last year at cornerback, and obviously Joe Hayden, so his reputation. So right now, that's my biggest concern: is why are these receivers? They seem to be getting open, seem to be finding the soft spots on a pretty consistent basis throughout the first 3 weeks. That's probably my biggest concern right now.
I could recognize all of that. I have no problem with that. I'm probably a little more worried about injuries, but like you said, that could happen at any possible time. But here's one interesting thing, and this is why I'm bringing this up. Somebody asked about Deontay Johnson. And the thought is that he is going to be in the concussion protocol. We don't have a word on that yet. We're going to learn more tomorrow on the Mike Tomlin press conference going into week 4. And be sure to check out Behind the Steel Curtain, as Jeff Hartman will go immediately after and have the wrap up on our podcast platform as well. So check that out. That's how I get my Mike Tomlin news, because I'm usually busy at that time at my real job. And so I'm at my real job doing my thing, and I don't get a chance to check it out. But then I go ahead and turn on Jeff. I'm like, let Jeff tell me what's going on. And there you go. CT Pittman says Deontay tweeted last night, says he's fine. We'll see what's going on with that. There's another injury that we do know of, that Derek Watt will be out for a few weeks with that hamstring. And it led to a very interesting tweet by one Roosevelt Nix. Looks like Roosevelt Nix is not... Now, let me make this clear. He is not hoping to capitalize on an injury, but there is a vacancy right now. Team needs an experienced fullback. Do you think they might be calling Roosevelt Nix to see what he's got?
That's possible. Not only has he played fullback for them, but he was an exceptional special teams player, just like Derek Watt is. But the one thing I will say is they do seem to know how to play offense without a fullback. They've driven us all crazy with that over the years, not utilizing the fullback enough, especially on short yardage running situations. So I think they can get by in that regard as far as if they decide not to sign somebody else. But I could certainly see based on their fondness for Rosie Nix. I think they all loved Roosevelt Nix when he was here. All the fans loved him. I think the coaches loved him too. So I could certainly see them giving him a call and bring him in while Watt is on the mend.
Also, don't forget this, and Donald Nolan mentions it. Trey Edmonds will be moving up to fullback for a few weeks, probably. He's on the practice squad, and he has done admirably in that spot. He knows it as well. That might be really that might be the most logical solution at this point. But I would love to see a guy like Roosevelt Nix back in the fold. I don't really think it's going to happen. I think you'll see Trey. I don't think Derek Watt's going to be out that long, but we shall see. One more thing to say about the injury situation. This is how excited I am about the wide receivers right now. You lost Deontay Johnson yesterday, and this team doesn't fold because that's how deep they are at receiver. You have Juju, who had another pretty good game, but he only had 46 yards. Doesn't matter if he has 46 yards. Or it might have been 43. You can go ahead and correct me on that. But it doesn't really matter. The reason being is because if he's not going to kill you, you're going to get killed by James Washington, by Chase Claypool, Deontay Johnson when he's in there. And then you saw what Eric Ebron could do. Probably one of the most exciting things for me yesterday was not just Ebron, but Vance McDonald as well. Seeing Ben get them in the mix. And when those other guys are covered, you have a weapon to go to, and those guys are wide open. That rapport with Eric Ebron is going to be huge. And once Ben gets that rapport with you, you know you're going to be golden. We saw it with Chase Claypool a week ago. That 84-yard touchdown made Chase Claypool one of Ben's guys. He had no problem going to Chase Claypool late in the game yesterday as well. He didn't go as much, but they were spreading it around. He went to Ebron a lot. And that is a big deal. And he's still going to throw balls into Vance McDonald. So we've predicted this all along. This is starting to come true. So that's pretty exciting. Steeler Tag says bad. His name is Mapletron. Get it right? Mm-hmm. I love that name, Mapletron. That's absolutely fantastic. I think you could still get the Mapletron t-shirts on BehindTheSteelCurtain.com. I think we've had them in there since draft day. So that's really exciting. So you know what? Let's take a break, Tony. We're going to take a short break. If you are on the podcast platform, go ahead, download podcast number 2 of the Steeler Hangover. If you're still here if you're on YouTube, just stick around. We're going to be right back, and we're going to take your questions. So our Q&A portion is going to start in just a moment. So get them ready, put them in. We're going to start answering them for you, my friends. Welcome back to the Steelers Hangover. A good hangover indeed when the Pittsburgh Steelers are 3-0, Tony. This isn't face down and ugly in your own stink. This is, woo, I'm partying, so I'm tying one on. The Steelers Hangover, it's a good one this week once again. As you can see from our thumbnail for this, when you see the Steelers Hangover, it's Steelers fans partying. I don't want to break out the dejected fan Steeler Hangover thumbnail, and I'm hoping not to bring that out for a long time. The Steelers have not been 3-0 for 10 years. I would love to see them go 4-0. And I got to tell you, I probably can't tell you the last time that I remember the Steelers being 4-0. Do you know this, Tony?
I do. I know this. 1979. And I think we all know what happened that year.
1979. We had a double champ. We were City of Champions, my friend.
That's right.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? Because that team in 1979, not a lot of people realize it. That team turned over the ball a lot.
Oh, yes.
I mean, as great as Bradshaw and Harris were, they would turn the ball over, but they knew how to win. And this team, it seems like the Steelers in this nervous game, we talked about them having a knack for winning nervously. It seems like this team right now is finding ways to win and more confident in ways to win. And it's Ben Roethlisberger is one of the guys that is leading these young players and showing them how to win. And once they have that knack, that winning nervously starts winning emphatically. So I'm pretty excited about that. But 4-0, 1979, that's an awful long time. That's 41 years, my friend. I think they need to match it. We need the excitement of that, and we'll see what happens this week. So what we want to do, we want to go ahead and have you ask your questions. We're going to bring some Q&A portions into the game. So here we go. Dallas Quinley asks, and I'm going to bring that up. Do you see McFarland playing more and Snell less? Well, what did you say the division of labor between those two were? 7 apiece?
I believe that's what I checked out the box score yesterday and a few times today. I believe it was 7 apiece. Actually, you know what? I think McFarland had 6. So he had 6. He averaged 7. So 6 for 42. And then Snell had 7, I believe, for 11 yards. So it's 7 and 6. So it's basically even.
You know what? I think they are going to get even looks. I like that change of pace. They are different kind of runners. I like having them both in there. We saw what the 49ers did with it last year, but I still want to see James Conner be your bell cow. I like that. I have no problem with that now, and I know I talked about it completely differently 2 weeks ago.
We both did. Yeah.
But that's a little bit of frustration, and that wasn't keeping the insight to know that, hey, look, they'll be okay. It just looked like he wasn't running well.
Right.
But he's running well now. And the Steelers are the only team to have 3 100-yard rushers in the first 3 games. Well, 100-yard rushers. They don't have 3. They have 2. 100-yard rushers in the first 3 games. The only team to do that. Really interesting as well. Steelers tank. Imagine 11, 19, 18 with 85 and 89 on the field later this year or in the playoffs. Yeah, that's what we were talking about, Steeler tank. That's pretty exciting. Lamont Curry. If Steelers beat Titans, Browns, Ravens, Cowboys, Super Bowl, we will win. That's almost Yoda-ish. Super Bowl, we will win. You know what? That could be a possibility, but you've got to learn how to beat the Ravens twice in a season. The Browns are an interesting team to me. They're no longer the if it's Brown, flush it down team.
Right.
With that running game that they have, Baker Mayfield has a great insurance policy, knowing that he can give it to Nick Chubb or throw it to Kareem Hunt. Those guys are racking up yards. That is a fantastic running team there. AJ, Gavin, Anthony. Connor will be the bell cow, but the others will be filling in when he needs rest and give a change of pace. And Ant Mac at the same time. And I'm just learning. I just learned about that name yesterday. I didn't realize Jeff Hardman called him Ant Mac, and I didn't realize that was his name. So it's like my 2 favorite things: macaroni and cheese and Ant-Man, Paul Rudd. And Paul Rudd is a casual Steelers fan too. So there you go. Big Marv asks this: Bad, do you think the Steelers will keep the pace up or go cold? No, I don't see them going cold, because this is the exciting thing for me. You have teams like the Titans, the Cowboys, the Ravens coming up. They don't always lose to those teams. They're going to lose games to one of them. They're not going to go 3-0 against those teams. But they seem to take those teams on the schedule that should be an automatic loss and play them tough and shock them, and they do that all the time. We saw that with the Kansas City Chiefs just a couple years ago when they beat the Chiefs, and the Chiefs were 6-0. We have seen them defeat the Baltimore Ravens before. So I'm not worried about that. Are you worried about them going cold, Tony?
I mean, no, I think the great thing about the defense that they have is even if the defense struggles, it's never going to let a game get away from it like in years past. It's just too talented. So I think the defense will always keep them in games. So even if they do go cold on offense, they're still going to have a chance to win at the end. And even if they do lose a game or two here and there, it's not going to be an extended losing streak because they have that defense and now they have Ben back. So I think there's a little bit too much there for them to tend to go cold for an extended period of time.
Here's an excellent question. Reginald Rivers, my man, Reggie. Bad, I have a tough question for you. Who should the Steelers sign long-term, Hilton or Sutton? Tony, I have my answer. I'm going to throw it to you first.
Well, I think they should sign Hilton long-term because I think he's one of the best in the business overall. I mean, he has great instincts, obviously, getting after the quarterback, but he's still a really good, way above average slot corner. But they're probably not going to be able to sign him because he's probably going to get a huge raise next year. So I'm guessing it'll be Sutton that they try to go after.
Donald Nolan asks, what about 13? 13, James Washington is one of their most unheralded players, but he is a fantastic piece of the puzzle. He's going to win a game or two for you alone. James Washington is the epitome of a team player. I love the nickname Grandpa Strong that Ike Taylor gave him. I don't even know if he realized he was giving him a nickname, but this guy, he's a farm kid. He blue collar. He plays tough. He catches the ball tough. We called him last year the combat catcher. I love everything about James Washington. The problem with James Washington, he's going to get overshadowed. And guess what? James Washington doesn't care about that. He's going to go out and do his thing. What's your thoughts on 13, Tony?
I love him. I'm a big James Washington backer. I always thought he was underrated. He's been underrated since the beginning of last year. I thought he did an excellent job last year with the leading the team in receiving yards with the quarterback play the way it was, and he's going to have another fine year this year, I think. And the great thing about these receivers is Ben doesn't have to worry about getting the ball to one specific person. So you're going to see a lot of these guys having big games, taking turns. You're going to see Juju have a decent game. You're going to see Deontay Johnson. You're going to see Washington. Obviously, Chase Claypool, Eric Ebron. If you want to include the tight ends, that's the great thing about this receiving core and the tight ends is you can distribute the wealth really evenly. Whereas in the past, you had to worry about getting the ball to AB all the time, and I think that put a little bit too much pressure on Ben. Whereas this year, he's just going to go for the. He's already shown that if you look at the targets, he's looking for the guy that's open.
And that's a huge thing as well. And that leads to this question. Bry 160701 says, any concerns with Ben's deep ball accuracy? A little, but I think it's coming. I think it's about to hit. I think the rust is being shaken off that. His preseason's over, Bry. So I'm thinking that, there's a little bit of a concern, but it's not keeping me up at night. I think we're going to see that solved, and that's not even going to be a question. Tony?
Yeah, I'd be more concerned if he couldn't throw the ball deep. I think his arm looks stronger than it did 2 years ago when he was having trouble. It seemed like he was always underthrowing guys on deep balls. Whereas this year, it's overthrowing. I think it's just a matter. A guy that's been in the league as long as he has, he's the longest tenured Steeler ever now. So I think if his arm is healthy, he'll figure it out and get the accuracy back on those deep balls. That's his thing. I mean, Ben loves doing that more than anything. So he's going to get his accuracy back on the deep balls. It's just a matter of time.
You know what? I want to say something about Ben Roethlisberger. This might be my favorite version of Big Ben. I think I'm enjoying watching him more than I have in a long time. And I'm talking through Super Bowl years. I mean, I loved watching him. Don't get me wrong. There's something special about Ben to me this year. 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. I believe that's the line. I want to knock on wood on that because we've seen him have those 5 interception games. But, I'm loving what I'm seeing from him. I think it's all going to come together. You know what? I just realized I did not answer Reginald Rivers' question, so I'm going to go quick into that. I think Hilton has become the guy in preseason. I was thinking that he was less expendable than Matt Filer. Now I'm thinking that the things that Mike Hilton brings to this team every single week, he's on pace to have 12 quarterback sacks this year. Two sacks in 3 games. That interception yesterday was huge. By the way, in Bold and Bizarre Predictions, 2nd week in a row. Last week, Joe Hayden. This week, Mike Hilton. I predicted who had the Steelers interceptions. Leonardo Torres asked, where's Minka? Minka's there. Minka's coming. Minka had a great tackle yesterday, or a pass breakup. I just don't think you're seeing the secondary the way you want to see him with what's happening with the front 7 being so dominant. Something's got to give. I still think those guys are a little bit on an island, but you notice no points. You couldn't pass in the second half on them as well. That secondary straightening out. I wouldn't worry about Minka. Ryan O'Toole asked this question. How would you grade the refs? Watt was being ridden like a pony, and Ben had that first down. Here's the thing with the refs. I thought during the Broncos game that they weren't as bad. The refs weren't as bad as everybody else thought. Now, a lot of people disagree with me on that. I have no problem with that. That's fine. Yesterday, the Steelers only got nailed with 2 penalties.
Yeah.
It was it was Ben's intentional grounding, which, as Dave Schofield and Jeff Hartman pointed out, I think it was more Dave yesterday pointed it out, that if Vance McDonald was just a little bit more in the end zone, then that's not an intentional grounding. It's not going to be as egregious because he was actually trying to go to him. But you still have to call that. And the other one was Big Al going downfield. So the Steelers were ineligible man downfield. The Steelers were not decimated by penalties. But how many sacks do you think that team would have had, Tony, being the Steelers, if the refs would have called some of those holding penalties?
Oh, I mean, 7, 8, maybe 9. I mean, it was incredible to see T.J. Watt's impossible to block one-on-one. I mean, he just is. I mean, he was getting James Harrison the whole game. The guy, the offensive lineman had his arm around his neck like he used to do they used to do to James Harrison back in his heyday. So, T.J. Watt's turning into what they used to say about Joe Green when he was in his prime. He was impossible to block unless you held him. And I think they could probably call that on him on every single play if they wanted to.
Tony, we've got some Aussie Bucks coming in. Matty Peveril, check this out. And I'm trying to bring it up, and I can't. He gives us a $4.49 in Australian. I don't know the exchange rate. And hey, you work for us, buddy. You don't have to pay us, but that's really nice of you. I appreciate that. He says he loves low INT Ben, watching on the sideline help for Ben. I actually think that you made a great point. And let's not forget the non-AB factor. The non-AB factor, he's not forcing into it. He's picking his spots. I just love this. I love this Big Ben. I really do. So, hey, if you haven't caught Matty P and Marky D, who are both here in the live chat, it is, what time is it now? For us, it's when we're recording this, it's 5:41. So it's 7:41 right now, AM for these guys. It's Tuesday morning. They're from the future, like they like to say. So they're just waking up and they're hanging out with us. So I appreciate you guys. But if you haven't listened to Steelers Touchdown Under, like they like to say,
great stuff.
It is a great show. These guys are really entertaining. I have a buddy back home that was interviewing me from my high school football team, Richland Rams, by the way. Richland Rams from Johnstown, PA. I had a chance to go on halftime and talk BTSC with them, and they were all excited about having Touchdown Under. So they want to go check that out. They don't care about listening to me. And this was our buddy. This is my buddy Ed that we had on the show back in May, Tony, and he had some great things to say about our show and the other shows on the network. But he can't wait to check out Matty P and Marky D. So you should too. Audio only. It is a fantastic show. That's wake up on Saturday morning. Yeah, put on these guys. You know what? Put these guys on around your significant other too. Guys, especially if the ladies hear these voices, they're far enough away. They're not going to be a threat to your ladies, but they're close enough that the ladies will like the accents, and there you go. If you know what I'm saying.
That's right. The Crocodile Dundee effect.
All right. That's absolutely ridiculous, but I love it. Here's an interesting question. Straight ace. UG3, question mark. UG3 and 3 question marks. Where's he at?
Yeah, I don't even who's playing. Who's the backup linebacker right now? I haven't seen him at all through 3 games. Has he been active? I mean,
no. Spillane's the only place Spillane's been is we've seen Robert Spillane on special teams, and he's very big on special teams for them. But UG3 has not been active at all, and I find it ponderous.
Yeah, there's a lot of great talk about his improvement in training camp. So I mean, who knows? Maybe that they were just blowing smoke during training camp when they were talking about him. But that tells me that Devin Bush is doing the Iron Man role, and I'm assuming Vince Williams is coming in and out for passing downs, but it tells me that they're putting a lot on Devin Bush's plate right now, and they don't really have a backup that they trust as far as inside linebacker if Spillane's not getting any reps.
And I'm not noticing Marcus Allen anywhere but special teams as well. And let me say this. How awesome is Vince Williams? Any Vince haters, I don't want to hear it. Vinny, Vidi, Vici. And if you're listening, I'm doing the V's with my fingers. I love number 98. That is my guy.
Is there a better blitzing inside linebacker in the NFL right now? I mean, we talk about the 2 outside linebackers, but he's got that inside blitz down to a T the last few years, and especially I think this year he might beat what he had in 2017 was 8 sacks. I think he might beat that this year.
That's a good thought, and not only that is. Remember, everybody talks about Minka from last year solidifying that team. That run game got solidified. That run defense got solidified when Vince came back from injury.
Absolutely.
Vince is so important. So if you want to talk about how he can't cover wide receivers, cover the tight end, cover passes, yeah. But for what he's in there for, he makes a huge difference. Now, Dallas Quinley asked, who has Barron's old role? I don't know. I thought it would be Marcus Allen. I thought UG3 would be doing some of that. I mean, I thought, maybe Edmonds would get moved up a little bit. I have no clue what's going on as far as the linebackers, but if anything's going to scare me, it's the depth there.
Well, you did see on the one play yesterday, I love Vince as much as you. He's one of my favorite Steelers, but he was matched up on a receiver at one point, I think in the first half, and he followed him all the way into the end zone. The pass wasn't completed, but that's not the matchup you want. And that's the matchup you'd want a Mark Barron type player to have, that dime linebacker. So that they found a mismatch there with Vinnie Mac or Vince Williams.
Here's something interesting. Steeler Tank, great insight, my man. I appreciate this. Minka, Hayden, and Nelson are the only starters do not have a sack. Offenses beware of the 2020 curtain. Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. I believe it. I mean, they bring pressure from so many different places, so many different players. It's not like the old days where the majority of the pressure came from the outside linebackers. Now it's Hayward, Tuitt, Alu can get sacks. Obviously Vince Williams, Hilton. I mean, it's incredible what they've turned into the last 4 years when it comes to sacking a quarterback. That's their thing. That's what they do better than anything else is get after that pass rusher or that passer.
You know what? pick your poison. And that's something that Jeff Hartman said last week. They're going to kill you. If it's Watt that's not going to kill you, it's Dupree. If those guys aren't Tuitt's going to get in there, and Tuitt did get in there yesterday. Hayward's going to get in there. Those guys are going to rip you apart. This is one of the most ferocious defenses I've ever seen. I have seen the Steel Curtain. I've seen the Blitzburg defense with Green and Lloyd. I'm not saying they're better because we're not going to go down that road because they're all awesome and special. But you can put them in the conversation with Woodley and Harrison too. You can put those guys. Boy, we have had a great history, and we've talked about this before in the offseason. We dedicated an entire show to it. But Matty Peverell says Alulu is playing red hot football too. Wow.
Yeah.
And you didn't have to pay him what the Eagles paid Javon Hargrave. And I think he's even more valuable. I love these guys that are not going to make the Pro Bowl, but are going to be huge for this team. And it's Alulu. It's Hilton. It's guys like that. Vince Williams. Those guys are helping stir the drink. So I just love it. Joey Caballero, we're the Baltimore Killers. Just you watch. I love it. I think that would be great. Tony, last thoughts as we wrap this show up. 3-0, Tony. 3-0. How are you feeling going forward? Can we wrap up the first quarter of the season with another win?
I think so. The Titans haven't exactly been playing murderer's row over the first month of the season or the first 3 weeks either. So I think they can. I think it's going to be an exciting game. And as far as yesterday's game, I actually felt, after the fact, I felt better about that game and about where the Steelers are headed than I did after week 2 when they kind of played a sloppy game and let the Broncos hang around. So I thought they showed a lot of character yesterday with how they how they made the adjustments heading into the second half and how they put that sort of put that game away down the stretch in the fourth quarter.
And we have one more question. Ed posed something we talked about earlier on the show about Derek Watt. About 2 to 3 weeks, he's going to be out with that hamstring injury. But here's the thing about that. That is your big injury. We're still waiting on Deontay Johnson. Deontay Johnson has put on social media that he is going to be fine. So I'm thrilled that your big injury is a 2 to 3 week injury, and that's it, possibly with a hamstring. So that's something he could take care of. So we're going to wrap things up here, Tony. I'm glad you're feeling good about it. You said something that made me think right there, and it's this. After that game, I didn't feel like the Steelers escaped. Against the Broncos, I felt like they escaped.
Exactly.
I felt like they found a way to win that game and finally put it together. And it's all aces going forward. It's excitement going forward. I'm really excited about this team. I don't want to make my prediction yet, but I think they're going to have a better time with Tennessee than they did with Houston. I think Deshaun Watson. I loved Deshaun Watson even more after watching that game. And my dad was like, wow, that number 4. I watched the game with my dad. It was awesome. He's like, that number 4 is special.
Yeah, my uncle said, man, what a cannon that guy has. So there you go.
Could you imagine if he had an offensive line and some better weapons around him?
Yeah, people always talk about Tomlin and wasting Ben's the last 10 years of his career. I think if Watson had a better team around him, I think if he had no offense, but I think if he had a better head coach than Bill O'Brien, I think he's not doing him any favors, especially trading a weapon like DeAndre Hopkins.
Absolutely. And I tell you what, that's a guy to keep on watching. I say it all along. If I'm building a team, I'm taking him over Lamar. I really am. I'm taking Deshaun Watson before I take Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson's something special. I'm not going to say he's not. But my guy right now is Deshaun. So, but with that being said, it's time for us to get on out of here, Tony. The Steelers are 3-0. 3-0. Not last year after week 3, 0-3. 3-0. So, gosh, I'm feeling good. I know you're feeling good. We had some Q&A tonight. So, Tony, it's time to take us out, my friend. To quote our very good friend, which we never met, but you knew if we hung out with him, he'd be our best friend ever, Rowdy Roddy Piper, the great late Rowdy Roddy Piper. Just when you think you've got all the answers,
we keep changing the questions.
We will see you next time, my friends. Family from BTSC, we love ya.